The city head nail was designed to be used in a fullering. It's very narrow, it's wider than an E-head, it's flat on one side, angled only on another side. To punch for this nail, it's not to say that it can't be done, but shank sizes are often way smaller and more rectangular than an E-head. And because of its design, the city head nail punch goes straight in, and then pitch is established with either the pritchel or a drift in a pritchel. Whereas with the E-head, because all angles are even, the forepunch is also angled at the pitch that's desired. So all three tools establish the pitch of the nail that you want. So because I've used, on this E-head, I've used 1/4 of an inch, and I'm punching into 5/16. That leaves me with 1/16 of an inch left underneath once I've established the forepunch into the material. At 1/16 of an inch, I'm probably capable of taking a pritchel and slugging that out at the right heat. In the instance of the fullering, with the city head, my depth on that head is only 3/16. So I don't want to take my fullering below that. I want it to match this, because the fuller takes the place of the forepunch. They're both the same tool. So in the city head instance with fullering, I'm going to have 1/8 of an inch left underneath. Well, that is too much for a pritchel. It's not to say it can't do it, it's just that that won't last. So the second tool comes into play, and that's a drift. And the drift is just, it's thinner so that it doesn't hit any of the sides I've established. If I was punching, it doesn't hit any of the sides, the two sides of the fullering, but yet the bottom of it still is the same size as the shank of the nail that I'm using. So, same as the forepunch, does the bottom of this drift match the shank of that city head nail? Right? So the same situation. I need to take the city head nail now, because I'm going to put it in fullering, and I'm going to put it into the can again, so I get that shape, that exact dimension of that nail. So the same procedure. I'll drive that to my transition line. There. Pull him out. So there's the dimension I need on this drift for the city head nail. And if you look at those two impressions I put in there, you can see what I'm talking about. How the difference is, how the city head nail is elongated compared to the E head, which is fairly, a little more on a square. So does my drift match my city head nail? Not too bad. Dimension's right. Dimension's right. It's not falling into there. It's just sitting right at that. So I've established the end of that drift to match that pretty well. You can see the difference between the two impressions we've made. Top one being the city head, bottom is the E head. And you can see the differences. You can see how elongated and narrower the city head impression is over the E head, being a little more on the square side. This is the difference between the shanks and both nails. So Now we need a pritchel that's going to pritchel this impression out of our shoe as well. So each pritchel needs to match each nail. So this pritchel's been prepared for the city head. You can see that it fits in on all dimensions. And I have a pritchel that's been prepped for E. You can see it matches the dimensions. Now I have all my tools set up. So now I want to make sure that everything I've done is correct. So we'll do the punched hole first. I'm about to strike this tool, and I want to be able to see, because I'm punching for an E-head nail, I want to be able to see my pitch. So the tool is brought across my body so that it falls underneath my hammer. I am not turning perpendicular to my body and setting up and hitting here. When I do that, if I'm going to pitch and put that out, I have to lean forward and bring my hammer over the top to hit the center of the tool. If I don't hit the center of the tool, I get misguided blows into my tool. If I hit this inside corner, I have a tendency to bend. I can actually bend the end of this once I've gotten down in there because I'm not hitting it square. So I've always put the tool underneath my hammer. I can also use my hammer as a rest, and I can put it in exactly the position I want without touching the hot shoe. So I can move it back and forth anywhere it is that I want to put this. I want to put it right there. Boom. I'm locked in. I set my pitch, and my hammer hits the center of the tool all the time. Like so. Rest, position, fine. Now I'm not going to drive that hole to finished depth because there's so much that has to happen here. I've just manipulated material. I pushed it through. I get a bulge on the outside of my shoe, sometimes called a frog eye. The material has moved and stretched. So now I'm going to take this shoe back out to the horn, and I'm going to work my frog eyes and work my edge and push that material back in again. You can see it more on this hole than this one, but now that I've worked this edge and I've pushed the material, you see this little bow coming back into the nail hole. So now I've stretched material again. That's twice that I've moved material. That's elongated the hole on me because I've moved the material. If I had taken that hole to finished depth and then did this work, the hole would now be too long, too big. So now all I have to do, using that I've already done that by moving material, I just have to come back and clean. And it doesn't take that much. Now I'm going to bring my pritchel into play. Same pitch that I had before. I'm going to move over towards that. Now this is a piece of lead, so it doesn't shear like a piece of steel does. It works more like aluminum. So I'm going to take it to the bottom and pop it through. And I'm going to leave it alone, because all I want to do is check my nail. So I'm going to take my nail and drop it. Boom. Now I can check and make sure that does it fill out exactly what I wanted it to fill out. Yeah, so I know my 4-punch is at the right depth. The nail just dropped in through. That worked really nice. So I know my pritchel is right. I could use a little bit more depth. I can still see just a little bit of that face of that nail there. So my 4-punch could have been a little bit deeper. But that's an easy correction. That's just me on depth. So if I give that an extra tap on that other hole, let's try that one. Better. And it's matching up. Everything is matching all the way around. So now I know I have a set of tools for that nail. Now on the fullering side, I run my fuller already. Now I'm going to bring in my next two tools. Like we said before, because we're using the city head nail, we're only driving that fuller 3/16 of an inch. So now to establish nail hole placement, also pitch on this, I'm going to use my drift. Same thing, comes over to my hammer. I'm going to set that toenail just back from the edge, a bit of drift to it, 2 or 3 licks, no more. Remember, we're still kind of warm here. Establish this where the line 90 degrees off the anvil, comes straight back down. Right there is my widest part. I'm going to put my last nail hole just in front of that and straight up and down. 3 licks. And then I can fill in the gap. And that's all that drift does. It's moving 1/16, half the material down, that 1/8 of an inch down there at the bottom. I want to move half of that. So that now that my pritchel can come in, and I can drop my nail. You can see that little bevel on the top is sitting just above my fullering. I like that. Boom. It's a good size. Everything is working. Good. So I know now that I have a pair of tools that are good to go for a 5 city in fullering.